Hi guys, welcome to the video where I'm going to be going through page by page the Caladium rulebook and not going super into heavy detail, but I'll be going through each page explaining every section briefly, allowing you guys to get a good feel for the game, how it's going to play, how you guys are going to have fun, or not if you're on the losing side, unfortunately. First we have the introduction page, which gives you just a brief overview of the game, how it's going to be played, bit of lore about the game as well as obviously where each section is, what page it's on. I'll leave this, guys, for you to look through yourself. We have a components list on the side at first, showing you in the core set everything you're going to be getting from the game board to the characters, tokens, everything. On the next page, we have the quick start guide for those that just want to jump into a game and get in as quick as possible. It goes through everything from selecting points, which is how many points you have to spend on cards, weapons, items, skills, things like this, and how basic movement and turns are done. So once you have selected your points and you have made your characters, you're going to want to be looking at initiative and deployment. Initiative is done by rolling a d6, whoever has the highest. If you are tied, re-roll. They get the choice of whether they want to be first or last, and then what way around the table, how you guys have sat, the turn will play out. If it's a team game, the teams will be represented by a singular person, and it will be Team A, Team B, and so on. There are modifiers to initiatives based on if you are in teams, depending on what races are in your team together. You will always take the worst modifier. So if you have 3 races and 2 together get a +1, and then there's one that's a -2, the overall team is -2. But if during the course of the game that player is to be vanquished, you will readjust your modifiers accordingly throughout the game. There is a handy dandy table here, which is a little sideways at the minute, but in your own time you'll be able to rotate it, or if you have the paper rulebook, you'll be able to turn your hands on, and you'll be able to have a look and see all of the modifiers for all of the teams. Explain in turn orders there, just as I have done with initiative. The next sections are going to be learning how the cards look, what's important, what's on them. So starting with the character cards, you've got the name and the race at the top. Lovely little bit of artwork on the left-hand side. Thank you, Andy, for that. And then on the right, going top to bottom, you have the main stats. Starting at the top with HP. Next is strength and agility, which are used for tests I'll explain in a little bit. Movement, which is how fast you are on the field and how you can move around quickly. And toughness, which is used primarily for damage negation. At the very bottom as well, if your character has them, you will have bonus traits. With some characters, they don't have any, but this section will be there. And on the reverse side of your cards, which isn't explained in the rulebook, there is some beautiful lore about each and every character if you want to have a look and see who you're fighting with. The next is equipment cards. They are color-coded, and I did my best talking with some people who have color blindness that I know, tried to pick colors that are distinguishable, but there is text as well, so that should help. Strength are red, agility weapons are green, blue are skill, orange or yellow are equipment, and purple are for those that are both strength and agility weapons. Every card is laid out the same, but obviously slightly different in what you'll find. At the top is the name, and to the top right, you will see how many points that card will cost to equip. Underneath, you will see further categorizing whether it's a strength, skill, equipment, agility, weapon, etc. You'll have some lovely artwork in the middle, taking up the bulk of the card, and then at the bottom, you will have everything that card does. And at the very, very bottom, in a nice, neat black border, you'll have its rarity, which is used for tournament play, which I have some very cool ideas that I'll be sharing with if we hit the stretch goals on the campaign for Kickstarter, as well as what number in the set this card was created. It's more for people who are collectors and have neat ideas, but it's actually a tracker showing me and you guys what number card was created. So as you can see with the example with the Claymore, it's number 13 of 66 of the item cards. It was the 13th card that was created. The characters all have the number system as well, showing you what order these characters were created, designed, and balanced in. Equipping a fighter, there are some rules, but not many. There are only 2 main rules to fight outside of the points limit that you'll be playing with. A fighter can only be equipped with 1 armor card at a time. It will say on the card, like you can see as the example, if it is an armor card. If it doesn't, you're good. The other rule is, because most of our humanoid fighters here are limited to but 2 hands, you cannot exceed 2 hands. Some cards are one-handed, some cards are two-handed. So that means you can either have 1 two-handed weapon or 2 one-handed weapons. Simple enough rule, but explainable. There may be some characters that exceed this rule for various reasons. I'll let you guys find them out, and maybe in future expansions as well. When you take a turn in Caladium, you get 2 actions. You can do any action twice, with the exception of movement actions. They are limited to once per turn. But you can do a second wind action to increase your movement stat by 1, making you slightly faster if you want to dedicate everything to sprinting. Attacking, using traits, skills, or items, you can all do those twice with the same item, the same skill, or different ones. It is up to you. Moving on to moving. Depending on what way your fighter is facing, you have the front 3 spaces in front of you, which take 1 movement action to move into, either directly ahead or to the sides. If you want to take a step back, it's 2 movement points. Every time you enter a new space, you can turn left or right for free. So as you take a step forward, you can turn slightly to the right as if you're going to start curving round, or to the left, and so on. You can turn on the spot for 1 movement point as well, just turning left, or right as you see fit. The other main thing is agility and strength checks. It is the crux and core of the game. All attacks and a lot of skills and traits will require either you or the person you're affecting to roll one. Simple thing is, if you're rolling a strength check, you have to roll under your strength. If you're rolling an agility, under your agility. Rolling equal doesn't work. It's a fail, meaning a 6 strength can only fail on a 6. 2 can only fail on a 1. Can only pass on a 1, sorry. Which leads on to attacking. If you're in range, and it will say on your weapon if you are, you have to make an agility or a strength check depending on what the weapon is. If you pass, you roll damage as per the card. But bear in mind, you can only attack things in front of you. No magical disco combat where you can hit things behind you. Sorry. It is the way it is. But fear not, for those being attacked, there is negation. You can use one of 3, or all of them, if you need, ways of negating damage. There is an order that they must be done. The first one is toughness. That is on your character sheet. It is the only way damage can be reduced to 0. Every other toughness and damage negation method has a minimum. It can take damage down to. The second one are shields. You'll follow all of the requirements on the card if you have a shield equipped. If you succeed or pass those requirements, you may reduce the damage more. And the same goes with armor. Attacks of opportunity is another point. If someone in front of you in base contact is trying to move to a different hex, either away, around, doesn't matter. You have a chance, if you choose, to stop them. You can roll an agility check. If you succeed, you have the choice of either ending their movement action in the space they started in when they declared the action, or you can make an attack at melee range free and then let them carry on their movement. So you either have the choice of stopping them running away around you, wherever it may be, or just get a cheeky swipe and get them next turn. But you've also got to consider that people might be getting behind you because of backstabbing. In melee range only, so not ranged weapons, if you are behind your opponent, you can get bonus damage when hitting with weapons. If you are directly behind, because kidneys don't like being stabbed from what I've learned, you get a bonus 2 damage. If it's to the sides, you get a bonus 1 damage. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it will make a massive difference when multiple attacks and multiple attacks opportunities, because they can't hit you back because they're behind you. You're behind them. Looking at now one of the newest rules that was introduced to Claydom, events. These don't count on the very first turn of the game, but every turn going forward, on the very beginning of your turn, before you move, before you do anything, you will draw an event card. They have many, many events inside, and I will let you guys find them out in your own time. Some are good. Most are bad. There are even some that do nothing for the time being. These will take into effect immediately. Some will affect you for the entire turn. Some will have different effects. They will all be stated on the card. If, in the case, you get dealt damage from the cards, and this has happened a lot in playtest, and you die, your turn ends immediately, and whoever was due to go next will act. The design for this is to make the game exceedingly brutal, to speed the game up, and to prevent people camping and hiding and being the sole survivor in a very cowardly and detrimental manner. This deck is designed to be a net negative and to really, really push you guys to end the fight quickly before the crowd ends you. Penultimate section we have here is tokens. A brief explanation and description of the tokens and what they look like, from the first player token to health tokens, terrain tokens, plus and -1 tokens if your stats change during the game, and they can. And even item tracker tokens to keep use of multi-use items, so you know how much ammunition you've got left, how many uses you have left. And the other rules section, basically just covering all the little rules in the game, from range, which is how you count out the spaces, line of sight, which is center to center, making sure nothing, including other fighters and terrain, is in your way. Hover, which explains the terrain tokens and how they block line of sight entirely. You can't pass through them, you must go around. Decimal places. There are some ways that decimals will come into effect, whether it's damage you're taking, damage you're dealing, other things. You will always, regardless of what the decimal point says, round down. Unless the card, the skill, the trait says otherwise. Keep things simple this way, rather than having to people figure things out in really heavy method. It's always round down, unless the card says round up. Damage over time effects. There are some cards that will cause you to take some damage over time, or dots, as we call them in the biz. These will always happen at the very beginning of your turn, in the same effect as the vents. So when you draw your event, you'll be taking your damage simultaneously. Again, same with events. If you take damage and it kills you, if you only had 1 HP left and you take 1 damage, you die instantly. Your turn ends. The next player goes. Really, really hammering home that encouragement of be quick before the arena and other people kill you. There are 2 short paragraphs here, which I'll let you guys read in your own time, explaining what the term D6 and D3 means, because it's easier to refer to dice like that, and it's quicker than saying a 6-sided dice or a 3-sided dice, but we don't use 3-sided dice. We use D6s to roll D3s. There is an explanation of how that works and what the roll on your D6 will translate to. Again, a lot of people who play a lot of board games will know this, but I will let people who are a little newer read the rulebook in their own time. The last rule, my favorite rule, is table talk. Just because you're playing a free-for-all game doesn't mean you're alone. If someone is winning and it's a 3-player game, why don't you buddy up with the other guy that's losing alongside you? Let's work on him, and then when he's out the way, we'll fight. As long as there's only 1 survivor at the end, it doesn't matter how you get there. Make alliances, break alliances, backstab, be traitors to each other. creates an interesting dynamic, and it creates this weird tension, because if someone starts winning heavily, they damn well better be sure that the rest of the table is going to turn on them, and there's going to be a 5v1, a 4v1, whatever it may be at the time. Careful, guys. Careful. There is one last section of the rulebook which I want everybody to read at some point when they can, and especially for those that are on here. It's an acknowledgement section to everyone that's helped me, because I've been making this game for 6 and a bit years now. It was August 2017 I started, and there's been a lot of problems. It's my very ever first game, and there's been things like the pandemic and just general road humps that I just didn't perceive. It's something I've learned, and hopefully when I make more games and when I expand Caladium, it's much quicker, it's much smoother. Now I know what I'm doing, I know how to do things. And I just appreciate everybody from game testing, ideas, graphics, artwork, where they've helped me and possible. It's massively, massively appreciated. It really, really is. And I do hope that people enjoy the game. And I encourage anybody that has questions about the game, message me. Reach out, message me. Because I would love to talk about it, and I really, really want this to be a success. I know it can be. And I will see you guys soon.